Hey guys, Zeon90 here with another video. Today I want to showcase a match I had using the Power GM. Now the Power GM is one of my favorite MSs to use in a situation where there's a mixed team composition or if I feel like I need a mid-range to a short distance fighter. The Power GM doesn't pack the biggest punch and it doesn't have the greatest close range toolkit, but it has a mixed weapon set that I think is great for a general type unit, especially a more defensive type unit like the Power GM is. I think it's got good mobility, it's got good agility, and its weapon toolkit that it does have, I think, makes it a good comparable frontline fighter, as I'm about to showcase here. The Power GM was able to adapt to multiple situations. It has enough power and agility that I can get out of multiple sticky situations throughout this match. And we're having a hilltop brawl right now. I get my shield taken out very quickly, and that's usually pretty rare. I'm pretty good usually about keeping my shield up and blocking multiple shots with it. But it looks like it took one for the team there. I decide to split off. I start going after their support. The rocket meta is very big right now. I'm not a huge fan of it. I've been moving more towards secondary arms or machine gun type weapons. And I've been finding great success with them as long as they're applied right. And was that not just the goofiest saber slash you've ever seen? Oh man, I swear that didn't hit me, but apparently it did. Um, so I make a fast retreat, come up here, come across a Zuda. Sadly, I slashed too quickly to catch it, but thankfully our Ifrit over here caught him. Or at least I think that's the Ifrit. There were two Zudas on the team. There's the second one. I'm able to catch him from behind. But sadly, it wasn't enough to save the buddy. Switch up tactics. But that's what I liked about the Power GM. Especially with the shield gone, my agility has greatly increased. Which is something I only recently found out about mobile suits. Once they lose their shield, their agility increases. It makes perfect sense. I think it's a mechanic that works really well, and it's a nice trade-off. It makes sense in my mind. I wasn't too sure why I went so offensive on this guy. There's already an airstrike being called on him. I'm completely away from my teammates. I'm isolated now. I'm not too sure how I survived this, but I did. I used everything I've got left to try and run up this hill. I'm surrounded by enemies. But the Power GM is just a really good all-around general type suit. I really wish it had maybe another long-range weapon similar to like an anti-ship rifle. I think this would be a cool mobile suit to have one with those. But even so, I think it's a very stable MS that performs quite well in multiple situations. The primary machine gun that I'm using right now also packs a decent punch. It's got good kickback, good stun ability. I guess I should say stagger, not stun. It takes a while to get used to just using machine guns and trying to avoid the rocket meta. I think it does have its usefulness. I do think it's good in its own way. But I just find the machine gun gets more consistent results. And I like being able to do that more consistent damage to the enemy. Sadly, in space, it's a different story. I think you'd be very hard-pressed to rely solely on machine guns and not the rocket meta in space. But as far as ground combat is concerned, I find it much more... I get much better results when I'm using machine guns over rocket launchers, at least as my primary weapon. That isn't to say you can't do well if you don't use machine guns and vice versa. It's ultimately going to end up on the type of MSs that you like to use, how you like to use them. And here once again I'm surrounded by enemies, but thanks to how agile and the good defensive parameters of the Power GM and the lack of focus on my enemy's part, I'm able to survive this situation. But the Power GM has a lot of useful abilities. The evasive maneuver, it's got good thrusters, it has good walking speed. It's a very mobile machine, even for a general type, I think. But it also has good HP and good defensive stats. That was an odd tackle. Able to come up behind the Zuda, take him out. Now, in this particular moment, I don't think I prioritized targets correctly, but it still worked out somehow. He goes in for a charge. I quickly evade. Now, sadly, this is around the time there's like some kind of disconnection issue. There's obviously some lag. There's yeah, because right here I stopped doing any and all damage to him, but I'm still hitting him somehow because I end up killing him, taking out the MS and the pilot. So I'm not sure how much of this was on my end or their end, or maybe it was a mixture of two. But somehow I still survived despite this. And this is pretty uncommon for me. This doesn't happen a lot. So I was kind of shocked when it did happen. The game appeared to be pretty stable up until this point. Saw that enemy MS coming up behind me. I decided to get out of the way. And see, he's got a rocket, so obviously he's part of the rocket meta. He's trying to get that fix on my point. And I believe he did hit me through the sand. I think that's what happened. Or maybe it was the blast from a different weapon altogether, possibly the Zuda before it went down. But it's kind of hard to tell there. And sadly, this is when I overextended the legs. And it was thanks to that rock cover that I didn't get hit by a rocket right there. It's actually not uncommon to lose your legs, but if you find it to be a constant problem, do yourself a favor. I highly suggest you start using custom parts, the leg components to increase your leg HP. Some mobile suits, the wear and tear on the legs is much higher than others, so you're going to want to compensate with custom parts. It's generally just better to do that. Defend yourself against, overburdened legs because you're basically dead in the water at that point. So, and you always want to avoid that to the best of your ability. This Power GM is just destroying these Zudas, but that's to be expected since they're raid units. And here we are in the closing minutes of the match. And my luck is, looks like it's finally running out. I'm at 620, a final slash, and somehow I survived that. I was actually pretty amazed. I wasn't even paying attention to the time when that happened. And somehow my shield magically reappears. Well, that's my play of the Power GM. It's a really enjoyable machine, really good all-around defensive unit, great frontline unit. And I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you later.